Is karma instant punishment, or is it a tool to help guide us through the dualities of life? Welcome back to Along the Spiritual Journey. I am your spiritual tour guide, Jah, and K is for karma. So I want to talk about karma because we want to unpack this one. And it's about more or less the soul's evolution and not about punishment. So I first wanted to tap into why most people think karma is about doing something bad. Karma has many, many layers, and I want us to remember that just like all things, it has a dualistic aspect. The first layer of karma that many of us think of is you reap what you sow, you do unto others that you want them to do unto you, so on and so forth. Usually karma in the Western world is tied to moralities. Moralities are usually stemmed or focused on, I would say, religion and how we feel we should act or how we deem others should act, versus that of universal consciousness, which is just, as sentient beings, there are just things you should know that are innate as for all things, right? Like, no different than a human mother who loves their child or wants to nurture their child, no more so than an animal or a cat or dog who loves their child and wants to nurture their child. There's also mothers and fathers who disown their children, just like there's animals who disown their offspring as well. So this comes back down to what we call animalistic behavior, or our innate, when they say reptilian mind, or our evolved conscious mind, which is that of empathy, spirituality, so on and so forth. We as humans have learned to conceptualize what we think is right or wrong based on the proximity of what is happening to us. Think about life in this way, right? If it's happening to us, we usually care way more about it and we have a lot more opinions about it. Versus when it's not happening to us, we seem to not care as much, and then the opinions amplify, but in a distorted way, sometimes negatively. So think about it as when you see, unfortunately, someone's life gets taken. Most people, if it's their family, you're going to feel the emotional brute of that. You're going to hurt. It's going to be sad. You're going to be upset. Versus someone from the outside looking in who has no correlation to that person or thing, and then they say, well, what were they doing? What was the behavior? And in that moment, it's like, moralistically, karma is not about they got what's coming to them. Karma is about the duality of the situation. So when we talk about morals, this is just the first step to karma. This is something that I feel morals are man-made. I do feel that there are certain situations where morals are universal, such as you don't take something's life unless you're defending your own in a genuinely defensive way. And I don't mean, oh, I thought they were going to hurt me. No, something's actually hurting you, trying to hurt you. In that situation, sometimes you do have to do what you got to do, and it sucks. Even if you can do it without taking someone's life, perfect. But at the same time, it happens. So moralistically, that is for you to decide if this is a good thing or not, because in this moment of survival, you're not thinking about consciousness, you're thinking about survival. Now, when it comes to what is good and bad, this is another aspect of karma. We have to remember cause and effect. Cause and effect is like the parent of karma, right? There's good and bad. We can deem something as good and bad. We don't really know what's good and bad because culturally there's things that some consider good and some consider bad. So it really is, I would say, more suggestive or subjective versus it being objective, which is where cause and effect comes in, which is this thing is happening because such and such happened, right? If you walk out into the middle of the street without looking both ways, you might cross the clearing or you might get hit by a car. That's cause and effect. There's no morals or good or bad. There's nothing that really plays into that. Even if there's laws in place, it doesn't make something good or bad because you made an action. It just is. The next level of karma is self versus other. Self versus other is the grandparent, right? That is where it comes down to, if you do good to others, they might do good to you. It's not a guarantee. So you have this branching effect of self, protecting self, others, you wanting to do good, give back, be great, or match energy, get smart, be mean, be rude, right? And then you go back to cause and effect, the parent. So, well, depending on if you're nice or good, the cause and effect will be somebody's polite back or not polite back. In the same essence, you can be polite and somebody can be rude, somebody can be kind. But guess what? Because you were kind and you had no ill intent, it doesn't matter if this person's rude, you get that good energy back because you know that you had no ill intent. Versus someone who is rude back, they have ill intent, this person has ill intent, you match energies, there's a conflict, and or you are rude back, the person didn't mean to be rude back, they have the opportunity to now decide to match energy or to walk away in a cause and effect and say, this is not my story. You see where I'm going with this? It's nothing as simple as we try to make it seem, which is why we have so many different polarities. I always tell people the law of duality and the law of polarity are one and the same, but they have different parts to the whole. Duality is the bridge, polarity is the opposites in the worlds that create each other. So karma is simply the thing that holds these two worlds together and how you decide to interact in them. Now, with another layer to that, this is where we get past versus future, right? Because in the past, depending on what you did in the past, will usually show up in the future. And it's going to dictate how you feel, think, and behave presently. So, with all this information that I just gave you, we have to remember that karma is not something that happens out of nowhere to you. It's usually something that's aligned with behavior, life choices, and circumstances. Yes, there are times when we are born into lives that suck and we didn't ask for it. That's not your karma, right? That's ancestral karma where, yes, your relatives lived a certain way, made certain beliefs, made certain actions, and they went out and replicated that over and over and over and passed it to you and said, this is who we are. You as a sentient conscious being, maybe not so much as a child, but as you get older and you start to evolve, you recognize that you get to change what we call this karmic cycle. When we talk about breaking trauma and family trauma and karmic cycles and all this stuff, this is what we mean, because through observation, you get to start recognizing, again, what is it that is, again, causing and affecting this behavior? What is it, again, that is making something good or bad based on the outcome? And then, what is it about self that is now being projected onto others that is making people or something feel a certain way about A or B, about a person or a thing, right? Follow me. Karma is, again, about a growth cycle. So what I have learned is, I used to feel like, oh, karma means bad. Karma can be good or bad. And I want to stop using the words good or bad because it's subjective, right? There are things that I feel innately are bad. I feel taking someone's life for no reason other than ego and pride is bad, right? In the beginning, I said it could be good if you're saving yourself. Self-preservation is a good thing. It's important. So there is a duality and a polarity to both parts of this being. Two things can be true at once while they could be wrong, right? We see it a lot of times in the movies where the villain is trying to take this person out no matter what, and the good person, quote unquote, they disable them, they take them off the game for a minute, but they live another day to keep coming back. And most people say, why didn't you just take them out? Why didn't you just end it there? Because moralistically, they feel that that is not their right. And so you have to know where you fall within the spectrum of morals, right? Some people's morals don't exist. They're there. They just don't exist as far as when I talk about the bridge, right? Some people's morals are so far polarized that they are too far away from the objective truth of, you know what, I could make another choice. And the same for people who never lift a hand and they always get hurt and beaten and whatever. And they just say, well, that's just how it is. Okay, well, you have to ask yourself moralistically, how much of that are you willing to handle? Because life is about a level of sacrifice. And so when you know how to live in a world that you know is innately possibly corrupt, then you get to decide how you walk through it and how you, again, we talked about this prior, leave a legacy that represents you. For me, my karma is not an eye for an eye, but if you trying to come for me and you trying to hurt me physically, you gonna get hurt back. It's just that. Now, depending on the situation, that's where I have to use discernment. There was a comedian I was watching, I forgot, I think it's Al Sadiq, and he's hilarious, but he was saying, he was in a parking lot and someone cut him off and took his spot. And the person, he was going to get all hype and come for them. And then the person hopped out, took off their shirt, and was ready to go. And he was like, you know what? I'm going to let them have this moment. Because it's not, the situation is not worth the cause and effect of what it could become. Versus then when someone was, another story he was saying, someone tried to break into his child's house. And he went out and handled that. And he was willing to hurt that person because they were trying to hurt his child. That is survival mode. And in that moment, he was willing to risk himself and his life because he had a love for it. So for me, what I've learned is karma is strictly based on the type of love you have for self. When you have a certain type of love of self, which is when we talk about self-love, it's talking about self-protection. It's talking about setting boundaries. It's talking about, again, discernment and knowing when to step up, when to step back, and when to step to the side, right? Because, again, based on these actions, that's what's going to now create what we call the present moment, will become the past, and that past will be now something that affects the future, right? If I steal something today and I get caught, now I have all these issues with the law. In the future, it's going to affect something that I really want and care about. So this is where we have to come back to morals and decide, is this something that's worth it? Now we can say subjectively or objectively, well, what if this person's life led to this? What if they felt they had no choice? Some people's lives are karma in that aspect. Not saying that they're, again, I talked about it before, yes, you're born into karma, but it's not yours to own. So there's a level of discernment where you get to, you might have to learn the lesson and keep learning the lesson until you learn a better outcome. And then you get to choose, is this the right path? Are these the right actions, right? When I say right, I don't mean better than, I mean correct. As in, yes, go this way and you won't get hit in the face with a bar, right? One path, you're gonna keep hitting in the face with a bar, or you go this path, you won't get hit at all. To me, yes, that is a correct path to go versus this path where it's like, no, I'm gonna fight that bar. And some people choose that. And that's where karma comes in. So when it comes to the physical realm, your actions, your choices, your decisions will then affect your emotional realm, which I consider to be, well, how I'm going to define this. Choices now are the present, right? The emotions that we attach to them are the past. The mindset that we then decide how we act on is the future. Because whatever thoughts you decide to do based on this present moment is what's going to then affect your past based on the emotions that you were given or the imprint that you were given. Which is why some people can go into a situation totally level-headed, never flip out, never crash out, but afterwards they fall apart because they've learned in survival to hold your head up, hold still, don't let things get to you, don't let something else come and take your power, don't let something take your autonomy or your sovereignty. And in that moment, their karma is going to gift them with blessings. Why? Because emotional integrity is a part of emotional intelligence. And integrity means knowing when to protect self. Again, it's not about having integrity of pride and no matter what, I'm gonna stand 10 toes down even if I'm wrong. That's ego. That's distorted pride. That's distorted ego. Ego exists because it's necessary, just like there's healthy ego, which is I know that I am relevant and I'm important, but I also know that this situation is not worth my life. It's not worth my energy. It's not worth me demeaning myself in order to prove something to someone. So when we're going into debunking the myths about cause and effect, you have to remember, well, what's causing me to make the decisions I'm making? And it's usually emotional imprinting of how we watched others react to an environment. When we talk about imprinting, I try not to use too many large words because I don't want people to get lost in translation of what I'm trying to articulate. But imprinting simply means that, or not a large word, large concept, but it simply means that if I'm sitting as a child watching TV and I have one parent say something and the other one reacts loudly and the other one doesn't react at all, even if I'm not watching them, I'm feeling the energy and it's imprinting on me. So now as a child, as I grow up, I get to decide which one of these reactions I utilize to my benefit. One day I might choose to be quiet and just simply stoic and think that that's necessary or normal. And on the other hand, I might feel like I need to always articulate what I'm saying, yell, act out, because I get results fast that way, right? Most people do things because they either get a fast result, some sense of power or authority, or whatever it might seem like to them. Because of that, that's how we start creating karmic paths, right? So I want people to remember karma is an energy. It's a frequency, just like all things, but it's also actions and behaviors. So depending on the actions and behaviors that you adhere to, that's going to determine the cause and effect of the future or the past that you then create, okay? So when it comes to understanding how to balance out your karma, again, it's a video game. You have to go into every situation and think, depending on the intensity of your emotions, what choice to make, right? So let's say you're in a relationship and this person, when they get upset, no effect of you, they get quiet, they shut down, they don't talk, they don't want to be near you. Again, has nothing to do with you. They're just depressed. That's what depression is. But you, on the other hand, you talk it through. You have to be heard. You want to say what you need to say, and you want to be felt and hugged and all of this. So when this person's shutting down and you're over here needing attention and to validate, then you're going to clash, because this is now going to decide what karmic path you guys take. If you choose to continually berate this person with your emotions while they're trying to navigate theirs, they'll probably end up feeling overwhelmed and probably disowning you or trying to get away from you. And some people might call this dismissive, avoidant, or avoidant behavior, which is true. We all have it. Some people live it as their personality, and some of us just have it as a personality trait. Then there's the ones where, again, you have to remember, how do I take responsibility and accountability for my own emotions? If I feel the need to just jump on them and rush into this with everything, that's when I have to decide, well, whatever outcome I get is the cause and effect of my choice. And now the karma I'm going to have to choose to live with, either as breaking up or not, because I didn't know how to communicate emotionally, right? They didn't know how to communicate verbally. You didn't know how to communicate emotionally. So knowing how to stand your ground for self is, again, now when it comes back to the moral side of, I don't want to make someone feel like I have to take care of them if they don't want me to, but I also don't want to feel like it's so easy to be ignored, isolated, or negated because they can't handle emotion, right? So when it comes to what we call emotional healing, spiritual healing, it's more about remembering that you have to allow space. All things need space to grow. All things need space to heal, right? A wound simply needs space. You don't keep poking at a wound because you're not giving it space. It's going to keep getting more irritated, more inflamed. Wrap it, put whatever you got to put, leave it alone, give it space, let it heal, and then come back and check on it when necessary. That's That's the healing process. So if there's no healing, then you will get negative karma. If there is healing, then you will get positive karma. So again, how you approach a situation is how you're going to get the outcome that you desire. And there's some people who have what they say better karma than others, because whatever they're doing in their personal life, which is again, when you're by yourself, that is a womb. You are giving yourself the nutrients you need and deserve to go back into this chaotic world and handle whatever is thrown at you. So when we talk about, again, the healing and the belief system that you give yourself becomes the awakening of how you then re-enter the world. So we give simple analogies like meditation and exercise and eating right. Those are tools. Yes, you should eat healthy enough that you survive, but even the most healthiest person still dies. So it's not going to get you away from being a human, but it will probably elongate your life or make it at least a little better depending on how you take care of yourself. Karma is about maintenance. So when you understand genuine maintenance of emotions and thoughts and what we call repercussions and all these other things that are tied to the Western world and other parts of the world, because it's not just the Western world, but I just feel sometimes here in America, we tend to put emotions on the back burner, while people who are claiming to be logical are still emotionally reacting and responding to everything. And so it doesn't make sense, because it becomes a bit of an oxymoron where it's like you're basing everything you believe on what you don't like. So how does that make sense? Right? And then there's some people who base everything they believe on what they do like. And again, like is another subjective concept, because I can like something that you think is morally incorrect, and I can not like something that you like that you believe is morally correct. So that's why I say morals are subjective. They're usually based on religion. So that's why I steer clear of trying to tell someone what is morally correct or not correct. The only things that I say as far as universal laws are, don't take another person's life, as I said in the beginning, because that is not your right. If they're doing nothing to you, it is not your right, okay? That's purely objective to me. Subjectively is when it comes down to, again, protection or non-protection. Another thing is, now, my choice is, I say, you shouldn't lie. Moralistically, you should not lie. Some people feel like, well, what if I'm lying for a good reason? Well, that's more so about a form of manipulation. Manipulation to me is not bad or good. It's just moving something in a way to your liking. So if you feel the need to manipulate the energy for something that you feel will help, do it. That's your karma, right? If you think that, well, if I lie to my kid or manipulate the situation to get them to go brush their teeth, okay, they go brush their teeth, and then they grow up and find out later that you were lying to them about this weird monster that crawls out of your stomach if you don't brush your teeth. Okay, well, now you have to deal with the moralistic and cause and effect of what that's done to them and how they decide to then treat you later in life, right? That's the whole point. So when we talk about karma, it's a now moment, it's a past moment, and it's a future moment. And how you learn to apply them is what's going to determine the path that you then journey. So when we talk about the spiritual path and enlightenment and consciousness, it doesn't make somebody better than the other person because they're living a spiritual life. I have lived around people and grown with people in the spiritual community who are still just as deluded, distorted, and got some stuff on their heart that they probably need to work through therapy with. No jokes aside. And there's some people who are in the streets where you think they're living the most seediest, horrible life, but they're still loved within that world and in that journey. And so I've learned that love is going to always win when it comes to the type of karma you receive. Hate is always going to lose in the type of karma you receive. Because if you genuinely hate something so much that it becomes your identity, that you don't know who you are individually, now you're just a part of a frequency that can manipulate you at any point in time, and you will receive that karma as a whole. There are groups of people who receive karma as a whole because they're choosing to strip their identity and their discernment and autonomy to just be this energy because it has some sense of power. Versus love, which is the same thing. If you're choosing love, it is a very high frequency and it's a very strong power. And it also gives back to those who gives to it. So if you are choosing a path of love, then love is going to find ways to bless you. Remember, love is also painful. No one said love is clean and perfect and shiny, and that's where media has distorted what love truly is. Love is messy, love is growth, love is pain. But some really beautiful things come out of that. Hate, it's ugly, it's dirty, it's messy. It can be shiny, it can be pretty, but once you take the shell off and take it out of the package, it's like opening a brand new package or something. You're all excited about it, and then you open it and it's half the bag, or it's rotten. That's hate. Love is, oh, it's tightly packaged. You think it's not much there. You open it, it's concentrated. You can use it for months. That's love. So when you understand this, then you will start to delegate energy more properly, and then karma will come to you based on how you assign that energy. And it assigns it based on the frequency that you're currently in. So if you've always been a loving person and then tomorrow you decide to be hateful, well, no matter what, even if you did all that loving stuff, the energy is going to give you what you are in that moment, distorted hate. If you were hateful your whole life and you decide to be love, the energy is going to give you what you are in that moment, concentrated love. This is why some people can say, I've turned over a new leaf. I used to be that person, I'm no longer that person. Because this is the spiritual part. We are vessels. The human is the human. I always say this, the human can act on actions, but the human, in my opinion, is never to blame. The spirit and frequency of the energy that the soul taps into is to blame. So if you allow your spirit and entity to tap into a distorted soul or a distorted mindset, then you're going to call in that past energy from past lives, and you're going to replay that same cycle that you've already lived before. And so the human, as the vessel we are, we will replay this energy and think it's us, when really it's just past energy that is needed to close out a cycle. And if we don't close out that cycle, that's when it becomes depression and anxiety and all these other ailments, because we're not doing the work. The work is allowing ourselves to see past illusion. The work is allowing ourselves to use discernment to decide which path we are currently on. Are we living in the past of our soul, or are we living in the present of our soul? Are we living in the past of our avatar, or are we living in the present of our avatar? If you decide to marry those two properly, then you will be able to shift worlds and cross the bridge. Some people literally looks like they have the best lives ever, and for them they are having the best life ever because they said that my avatar and my soul are going to be pure love, and all I'm going to do is choose a path of love. Some people, they're like, my avatar was born in a hate, so I'm going to be hate, and I'm going to live that soul in the spirit of hate, so all they know is misery. There's some people where they were born into love and they only live for misery. There's some people who were born into hate and they only live for love, right? Because it's a dual aspect. So when you learn the duality of life and you learn the duality of energy, that's what we talk about manifestation. When we talk about frequencies and all this stuff, yes, that's calling it in. The manifestation part, which is how you prepare it, how you put it together, is how, and you present it to the universe, is how it's going to get back to you. At the end of the day, we have to remember humans are just an energy. So if we like things that are packaged nicely and given to us nicely, why would the universe not like that? If you're giving the universe crap and it knows you just threw it together or didn't try, it's going to give you the same superficial crap back. But if you put energy into it and really make sure that it has a good solid foundation and you believe in it and trust it and you know that it's coming from a place of love and good, the universe is going to love it and respect you for it. It's going to give the same thing back to you. This is why I say sometimes we have to remember we're like chefs in the kitchen or people in the restaurant. I love that analogy. You're sitting at the table, you put in your order, and you keep putting in your order, and it's like, okay, well, now the cause and effect is the good bad thing is the waiter has to take the order. So they're waiting. They put it in order, you're putting in another order. So they're just putting in all these orders. That's the good or the bad part, right? The cause and effect is now the kitchen is getting backed up. So it has to put in all these orders for you. because you don't know how to decide which path you want to choose. So now you're going to get all of the orders all at once or different ways. And then you're going to be like, well, wait a minute, I didn't ask for all this. This is when it becomes self versus other, where it's like, I don't need all this, but you asked for all this. And the other is going to be like, this is what you put out into the world. You did this to me, you overwhelmed me, let me overwhelm you. That's what it comes back to. And then this is where you now decide in the future or the present, like, should I behave this way or should I not behave that way? So I don't know if this made sense. I hope it made sense. But remember, karma is a frequency, just like all things. It's an energy, but it's not innately bad nor good. Karma just is. It is just simply whatever you do to it, it will replicate itself back, either dualistically or polarized. So if you're doing good in a way that is helpful and healthy, it will give back to you in that way. If you're doing bad in a manipulative way that you know you're trying to cheat the system, it's probably going to catch up to you. So anywho, I love you guys. Thank you for following along on this journey. If you have any questions, please give me your opinions down in the comments. I love to see them. I love to hear them. You can go ahead and press that like button and subscribe, and or the other. I don't mind, whichever you choose, or both. And of course, you can check all my different, I always say, projects on my website, epicenity.org. There you'll find blogs, projects, merch, whatever. It's all in a one-stop shop. As always, thank you guys. I love you and have a good one. Mwah.